Good morning, guys. Welcome back to our next lecture. In our previous video, we had a discussion about what exactly soil means, the layman definition of soil, its physical and chemical properties, and as its bases, colloids, and their role in the formation of soil, and also the important topic, which was soil profile. Now, having discussed about the basic things about the soil, today we are going to know about what are the factors that influence the formation of soil. As you can see in the picture, the primary factors which influence the formation of soils are one is climate, the other one is parent material or the parent rock, and next is vegetation, and finally the topography, which means the relief of the earth's crust. Fine, without any delay, let's get started. So as we discussed, the four important factors that influence the formation of soils are, the first thing is parent rock, next comes climate, and next is topography, and finally vegetation. Now let us see one by one how do they influence the formation of soil. First, let us talk about the parent rock. When we discussed about the definition of soils, the soil definition itself says that it is nothing but the weathering of parent rock. Fine. So which is why the parent rock determines the soil texture and chemical and physical properties of soil. For example, the weathering and disintegration of basalt rock, which we found near Deccan Plateau. Its origin is related to eruption of lava. Basalt rock, the weathering and disintegration of basalt rock leads to the formation of black soil. And this black soil favors growth of cotton crop, which is why it is also known as black cotton soil. Now next one is weathering and disintegration of metamorphic crystallized rock leads to the formation of red or yellow soil. Fine. Now red and yellow soil favors the growth of which crops? For example, we can say coarse grains, millets, oil seeds. So this is how the parent rock determines the soil texture and also the chemical properties and also influences the formation of soil. Now let's move on to our next factor, which is climate. The climate factor is further subcategorized into two things. One is precipitation or rainfall, the other one is temperature. Now let us see how these factors influence the formation of soil. Let us consider the region which experiences heavy rainfall. What happens because of heavy rainfall? There will be a leaching down. In technical terms, we can say leaching. In layman terms, it is nothing but washing away the topsoil. Fine. So this process is also known as desilication, wherein the silica content of the topsoil is washed away, leaving behind. So this is washed away, leaving behind the components or the oxides of aluminium and iron. Fine. So this happens in the regions which experiences heavy rainfall. So these are the properties of the soil, laterite soil. Where we can observe laterite soil? Mainly in western coastal plains and some part of Meghalaya. Fine. So this is how precipitation influences the formation of soil. If the heavy rainfall washes down the silica, leaving behind the oxides of aluminum and iron, leads to the formation of laterite soil. The laterite soils are majorly used for plantation crops, tea, coffee, and rubber. Now let's see about the regions which experiences dry conditions. Now let us consider a region which is experiencing the arid conditions, wherein there is a high temperatures but low precipitation. Fine. So as we discussed in our previous class, what happens? Firstly, whatever the moisture the topsoil has will be evaporated. Fine. So which will suck the water from the bottom layers. This is second step because of capillary action. Fine. So water is sucked up from the bottom layers. So the water which is moving to the top layers from the bottom layer will also carry bases along with it. Bases like calcium, we can see. So this leads to the concentration of these bases in the top layers of soil here. Fine. So the upwelling water will carry the bases along with it, leads to the increase in concentration of these bases of the salts in the top layers of soil, which leads to salinization or saline or alkaline soils. So this is how precipitation and temperature, together we can say climate, influences the formation of soil. Now let's move on to our next factor, which is topography. We can divide topography into two components. One, when land has a gentle slope, and next, when land has a steep slope. Where do we find this steep slope land surface? Near hills or the mountains. We can call it mountain soil. So we can say that this is fine grained soil or thin bed sandy soil. Now the question is, why is that so? What happens? The steep surface of a landform does not allow the sand to settle at one point. Rather, it moves down under the influence of gravity, which does not allow the sand particles to consolidate and form thick beds, which results in this fine-grained thin bed sand soil. Now let us see about the gentle slope. In gentle slope landforms, what happens? So it has enough time to consolidate and form thick beds of soils. Hence, it also leads to the increase in the concentration of nutrients. Concentration of nutrients, and hence they form thick bed of soils. Where do we find these type of soils? We can find these in alluvial soil or northern plains. Fine. Now let's move on to our next factor, which is vegetation. Now, how do the vegetation influence the formation of soil? We got to know that soil will influence the growth of vegetation by giving its nutrients, and also the soil fertility influences the type of vegetation. Now we are supposed to know about how vegetation influences the formation of soil. First thing is, this vegetation with its deep roots. Okay, let's have the diagrammatic representation. Okay, so the vegetation with its deep roots, as we discussed in our previous lecture, they will reach till the B horizon. Where what takes place? Elevation takes place. Elevation takes place, because of which this is rich in nutrients. Fine. So though the soil initially, even though the soil is deficient, we can say, soil is deficient in nutrients, these trees with their deep roots will drag the nutrients from the B horizon, and they will add that nutrients to the top soil when they die after their death, and adding that leaf and litter as a part of humus to the soil. Fine. So this is how the vegetation enriches the fertility of soil by bringing the nutrients from the bottom horizons to the top horizons. And the second thing we can also say, so first thing is it will increase the nutrient proportion of soil, and second thing, it adds humus to the soil, and third is it will bind the soil particles together, which prevents from soil erosion. Fine. So these are the four important factors which influences the formation of soil. Fine. Parent rock, it determines the texture and physical chemical properties of the soil. Climate, by its precipitation and temperature levels, it determines the type of soil of a region. And then topography, it will determine the texture of the soil, whether it is fine grained or the thick bedded soil. And the vegetation, it will influence the fertility of the soil, humus content of the soil, and also it will protect soils from being eroded. Fine. So this is about factors influencing the formation of soil. In our next video, let us talk about The processes involved in the formation of soil, like podolization, chelluviation, weathering, organic changes, translocation, and all. So till then, if you like this video, subscribe, share, and like, and stay home, stay safe. Thank you. Have a nice day.